When Apple first announced the ARM-based chip called the Apple Silicon, codenamed the M1, I was surprised. The performance it has to offer was supremely amazing. Fast forward another year after the announcement of M1, Apple released the next generation of the MacBook Pro. And this generation of the MacBook Pro is what I'll consider to be the first real Pro laptop, as in professional grade. So this laptop that we have here is a base model of the 14-inch MacBook Pro with a slight upgrade to 32 gigs of RAM, and that's it. So let's get into it. What makes this laptop a true Pro laptop? Well, it's a combination of a few things actually, but of course there are a few quirks. The first thing that makes this laptop Pro is that screen. I think most of the cost of this laptop comes from the screen itself. It's a mini LED screen and it comes with a 14.2-inch Liquid Retina XDR screen with a resolution of 3024 by 1964 in resolution. Plus, it can also go up to 120Hz refresh rate as well. Cutting through all of the extravagant bombastic names, that means that this MacBook Pro is using a mini LED screen like what we mentioned earlier. This isn't even the first time we've encountered a laptop that's using a mini LED display, and mini LEDs does come with an advantage of both improved contrast and black levels and also improved brightness as well. I mean, if I'm to compare this display with any other displays with the conventional LED backlighting, it's a big difference. Mini LEDs actually look a lot more like OLED but without the burn-in issue, which is excellent for both desktops and laptops. With that brightness and contrast means that HDR on the MacBook Pro 14 looks amazing as well. What makes this display special is how Apple actually utilizes the display tag with macOS. I mean, by default it's already using the Apple XDR display preset, but I didn't realize that it was already in HDR mode, because when I open a YouTube video that supports HDR, that video automatically just plays in HDR mode and everything else besides the video remains in not HDR, if that's a word. And of course, such a magnificent display also means that its brightness levels and color accuracy is just unparalleled. It is perfect for all sorts of content creation, ranging from video to photos and even audio too, because the speakers on this laptop is just amazing. Now back to the display. The bezels on this display is the tiniest that I've seen on a laptop so far, and I'm absolutely amazed by what Apple has done here. And of course, there are some crop pixels around the four corners because they are rounded corners, hence cutting out some usable pixels. But we gotta talk about that notch. This notch here is pretty pointless since there's no Face ID like the iPhones, and I guess that is why this display is actually taller than a 16:10 aspect ratio, just to compensate for that notch. But within this notch, there's a 1080p webcam, and paired with the microphones in this laptop, I would have to say I actually enjoyed using this laptop to just do my Zoom calls or whatever online meetings I need to do. Of course, we also need to talk about the chipset. Now, the Apple M1 Pro is much more powerful than the original M1 on paper. It supports many more CPU cores, more GPU cores, more RAM, and also more storage. But that's not all. What makes the M1 Pro more professional is actually the media engine. Having hardware level H.264 and H.265 aka HEVC, ProRes and ProRes RAW alongside with video encoding and decoding engines makes video editing apps like Premiere Pro and also Final Cut Pro runs much more smoothly. Scrubbing through videos in Premiere Pro just feels so damn smooth. I'm not going in depth to talk about the M1 Pro chip today since it's a massive topic on its own in terms of both performance and also power efficiency. As a summary for today, I used the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 14 to edit videos using Premiere Pro, and I used a lot of MOGRTs, MOGRTs, and compared with my desktop with this list of specs, the M1 Pro MacBook Pro can provide the same level of performance, but it only uses a fraction of the power that my desktop consumes. However, I'm not entirely happy with just one thing. You see, the new Apple Silicon computers are essentially embedded systems. Everything is soldered onto the motherboard, including the RAM, the SSD, and of course the processor itself. Nothing is user serviceable or hot swappable, except for maybe if you want to dismantle the fan to clean it, for example. And I would personally prefer at least the SSD to be hot swappable for longevity's sake. And we should also talk about the ports of this laptop. Somehow Apple robbed us of all of the ports previously, but somehow they also decided to give us some of them. We have a total of triple Thunderbolt 4 ports, a single full-size HDMI 2.0 port, a full-size SDXC card reader slot, an audio jack, and also of course the brand new MagSafe 3. Personally speaking, I'm in love with the brand new MagSafe 3 though. Particularly is because of the cable alone. Now, this new cable is just a USB-C to the iconic magnetic head, but this is where things get interesting. I can plug the MagSafe 3 cable into, let's just say, the Ugreen 100W gun charger to charge the MacBook instead of the included charger. I can also buy the MagSafe 3 cable only, so I can use the MagSafe 3 cable with something like my USB PD power bank, for example. That's also a possibility. And fun fact, even though the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 14 only comes with a 67W charger, this laptop is actually able to accept more than 67 watts of power. Well, this is something that I discovered when I plugged in the Ugreen 100W gun charger into this laptop, and somehow the watt meter just reads like 80 something watts. And of course, we still have a lot more things worth highlighting as well. This MacBook Pro 14 comes with a pretty okay keyboard, I would say. I don't really like the smoothness of the keycaps, and I also don't know why the entire top row of this keyboard is much taller than all of the other keys. It just looks weird, especially this humongous escape key. The trackpad is also the same as before, so don't fix what's not broken, I guess. And some of the keycaps are just imbalanced, I think, because for some reason they are backlight bleeding out of this keyboard for whatever reason. I can't really tell. And you know what? I really do like this boxier design with rounded corners on the new M1 Pro MacBook Pro because for some reason I just find it to be different, appealing, and for some reason this design just works for me. Oh, by the way, just don't bother about the shiny aesthetics. For some reason the sticker that I bought didn't appear shiny on the product page, but when I got it, it's just shiny, very shiny. So at the end of the day, for the starting price of $8,799, the M1 Pro MacBook Pro 14 is certainly not something that everyone should go out and buy right now. However, considering everything that Apple has packed in here, the magnificent mini LED display, the performance coming out of the M1 Pro chip, and also the unparalleled battery life and efficiency, I actually think that it's worth the price if you can make the most out of what it has to offer. Compared to everything that's in the market right now, only Apple can offer this kind of experience right now. It's not perfect, but I would still say it's just amazing. So yeah, that's it. That's all we have to share with you about the M1 Pro MacBook Pro that I've been using for the past like 2 months or so right now. Yeah, it's a fantastic laptop. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. We will have more content regarding macOS and MacBooks in general coming soon. So stay subscribed and we'll see you there. Goodbye.